For 3 centuries, give or take a few cycles, the Galactic Council's most highlighted, underlined, and probably glow-in-the-dark entry in their Universal Safety Manual reads something like this. Krillian warbeast cubs do not, under any circumstances, approach. Seriously, it was bolded, italicized, and probably had flashing warning lights around it. Then, because the universe loves a good cosmic joke, the human colony ship Avalon just sort of drifted into orbit. And with that, everything the Council thought it knew about danger, about protocol, about basic self-preservation, turned completely inside out. It was a proper, oh crap yellow moment for the entire galaxy, I tell you. I am Keeper 10th Scale, Senior Xenobiologist of the Survey Corps. And let me tell you, I've seen some things. I've cataloged species that communicate through interpretive dance, creatures that breathe vacuum, and flora that sings opera. But I watched the truly impossible happen in less than a local day. The deadliest infants in the entire spiral arm. Creatures designed by evolution to be living weapons. Met the soft-hearted mammal everyone just casually calls human. And then, those apex predators of tomorrow, they chose to stay, just stayed. Now, let's be clear about these Krillian cubs. They don't just hatch. They erupt, practically fully formed, into 80 centimeters of pure, unadulterated danger. We're talking razor-lined obsidian claws that could carve a star map into a durasteel hull, and reactive armor plating that makes them look like tiny, adorable tanks. Their idea of a playful tussle has, on more than one occasion, unfortunately ended an entire research expedition. Not just damaged it, mind you, but ended it. Every species, from the multi-limbed Draxi to the stoic Vrel, receives the exact same briefing. It's etched into their cultural memory. Maintain a 500 kelm perimeter. Deploy stun grids as a matter of course, and for the love of all that is holy, leave retrieval to the Krillian matriarchs themselves. They're the only ones who can safely handle these fuzzy little bundles of annihilation. Humans, bless their cotton socks, nodded politely. They even signed the waiver, probably without reading the fine print about catastrophic death. Then, predictably, they did what humans do best. They walked straight past the safety line. Why? Because something small was crying. I swear it's like they have a built-in sensor for distress, especially if it comes from something tiny and fluffy. The distress call itself was pretty standard. Came from a downed cargo skiff on the savannah below Outpost 12. Nothing too unusual there. Space is tough on equipment. What was unusual was the follow-up. A single cub had somehow separated from its brood, its leg caught beneath a twisted pile of alloy. My team and I watched from the observation gantry, bracing ourselves for the inevitable carnage, the kind of scene that usually involves a lot of screaming and very little surviving. Instead, we saw Ensign Mara Kessler. She didn't approach with weapons or stunners. She crouched, palms open, a gesture of peace that most species wouldn't even register. And her voice? It was pitched exactly like she was calming a spooked horse back on Earth. Think about that for a second. A spooked horse, not a creature that can chew through plasteel. The cub's ears, those vestigial sensor flaps that usually twitch at the scent of fear or prey, swiveled. It sniffed the air, ozone and blood thick on the breeze. And then it did something that no archive file, no xenobiological treatise, no ancient Krillian legend said it could. It whimpered. Not a growl, not a hiss, but a tiny, vulnerable whimper. It was like watching a supernova suddenly decide to become a lullaby. Now, from a purely xenobiological standpoint, this was fascinating. Humans, it turns out, have this peculiar biological quirk. They release a neurochemical called oxytocin when they see large eyes and rounded features. It's an ancient, primal instinct that screams, "Protect this adorable thing." And get this, that trait does not check taxonomy. It doesn't care if the adorable thing is a Terran kitten or a multi-limbed alien with venomous glands. Krillian cubs, on the other hand, imprint through chemosonic feedback. Basically, if you smell like food, you're prey, and the cub will try to eat you. Simple. But if you smell like comfort, like safety, like brood, well then you're pack. Mara's sweat, we later analyzed, carried peptides from weeks of nutrient yeast. And somehow, that was close enough to Krillian lactoproteins to register as brood. The cub, which moments before was a coiled spring of aggression, stopped growling. It started purring, a subsonic thrum that rattled our translators and made the observation gantry vibrate faintly. Our lead security officer, a grizzled old veteran who'd seen too much, just muttered the first of what would become many what in the voids. It was a sound that echoed through the control room for the next few hours, a testament to the sheer baffling audacity of human empathy. You can imagine the scene. Within minutes, every species delegate worth their weight in galactic credits crowded around the holotable. The Draxi, always focused on bureaucratic procedure and liability, hissed warnings about interspecies incidents and potential lawsuits from the Krillian matriarchs. The Vrel, ever the pragmatists, started calculating probable death curves, which approached 98% for Mara and the cub, and a worrying 30% for anyone within a 10-kelm radius if things went sideways. And what were the humans requesting? A medkit, some synth milk, and I kid you not, a blanket. A blanket. For a creature that, as we had just established, could bite through hull plating without so much as a toothache. We tried to reason with them. We told them orbit was lovely this time of cycle. Perhaps they'd like a vacation. They just shrugged, completely oblivious to the panic they were causing, and said the cub was shivering. Shivering! It was one of those moments where you realize you're dealing with a species that operates on a completely different logic circuit. Over the next few hours, the human crew turned what was supposed to be a standard cargo bay into something truly unexpected, a nursery. Thermal pads were jury-rigged into a cozy nest. An improvised splint, probably made from repurposed comms equipment, stabilized the cub's injured leg. And lullabies. Yes, lullabies, hummed softly through suit speakers, filling the air with gentle vibrations. The cub, responding to this utterly bizarre but undeniably comforting treatment, underwent a fascinating transformation. Its chromatophores, which typically shifted from camouflaged greens to aggressive reds, now cycled through shades of contentment silver. It eventually slept, curled up against Mara's backpack, a tiny, purring engine of destruction. Meanwhile, engineers, with a grim determination that only humans seem to possess, quietly reinforced and sealed bulkheads, just in case it woke up hungry. Every motion sensor in a 100-meter radius spiked each time Mara stroked its neck frill, each spike a testament to the sheer, raw power contained within that small form. Yet, the only thing that got torn, the only casualty of this unprecedented interaction, was the wrapper of an energy bar. It was baffling, frankly. Of course, footage leaked. It always does. Some junior comms officer, probably just wanting to show off the weirdness to their friends, uploaded a clip to the extranet. And just like that, comment sections across 17 worlds exploded. Versions of "This Won't End Well" filled the feeds faster than a hyperdrive jump. Then the inevitable happened. The Krillian matriarchs, those ancient, terrifying mothers who guard their young with planet-shattering ferocity, changed course. Their roars, amplified through vacuum comms, shook the very fabric of space. Their young would be retrieved, and any interference would be met with fleet-level force. It was a declaration of war, basically. And humanity's response? They set up a playpen. A playpen! Made of cargo crates. And then, because humans are nothing if not persistently weird, they took shifts reading storybooks aloud. Apparently, the cub seemed to like the rhythm of human speech. It was a defiance so absurd, so utterly human, that the matriarchs probably didn't even know how to process it. Dawn broke crimson on the savannah. And then the matriarch's dropship descended, slowly, deliberately, its massive claws extended, more for intimidation than for landing, scraping against the atmosphere. Council regulation, ancient and inviolable, states that unclaimed cubs return to Krillian space for social reacclimation. Translation: they don't trust other species, especially soft-hearted ones like humans, not to turn a predator into a pet. Humans, in typical fashion, complied, formally. They lifted the little beast toward the loading ramp, a moment heavy with expectation. And that, my friends, was the moment everything went sideways. The cub locked its jaws, not in a bite, not in aggression, but in a gentle, yet utterly firm refusal, around Mara's boot, and it would not let go. When a Krillian, one of the matriarch's own, finally tried to tug the cub away, the cub emitted a distress peal. It wasn't a roar or a shriek, but a sound so heartbreakingly vulnerable that every human, shoulder to shoulder, without a single word, snapped into an instinctive guard formation. They formed a wall of flesh and blood against creatures that could tear them apart. And here's the kicker. We had never, in all our recorded history, seen the galaxy's apex predators hesitate. Not once, but they hesitated. They actually hesitated. The minutes that followed stretched like taffy, thick and slow and utterly agonizing. Matriarch Gauss, a creature of immense power and ancient wisdom, clicked her primary claws together. Among her kind, that's not a threat. It's a clear sign of deep indecision. The humans, meanwhile, spoke in low, calm tones, the kind of soothing cadence zookeepers use to calm giraffes during a thunderstorm. It was bizarrely effective. The cub, still anchored to Mara's boot, wrapped its tail around her calf. This gesture, archivists later painstakingly documented, was labeled filial anchoring behavior observed only within Krillian family units. Translation: it had adopted her. It chose her. And adoption by galactic statute requires consent. The cub, obviously incapable of human speech, gave its consent the only way evolution allowed, through an absolute, unyielding refusal to leave. It was a silent, powerful declaration that resonated across the savannah, across the galaxy, and right through the Council's carefully constructed protocols. The Council emergency session lasted 6 hours. 6 agonizing hours of frantic debate, legal wrangling, and a lot of very confused aliens trying to understand human obstinance. The humans, ever the optimists, offered a compromise. Supervised cohabitation until adolescence. Full Krillian oversight, of course. And a gradual reintroduction to the brood hierarchy. The Krillian matriarchs, bound by honor codes older than most civilizations, found themselves in an impossible bind. They could not publicly abandon their young. Yet dragging it away from this human risked psychological trauma that might stunt the cub's future role as a planetary defender. They asked for precedent. The databanks, those vast repositories of galactic history, offered none. Absolutely nothing like this had ever happened. We watched, utterly bewildered, as lawmakers drafted new protocol in real time. Meanwhile, Mara, completely oblivious to the galactic-level diplomatic crisis she'd caused, was scratching behind the cub's cranial horn buds, murmuring promises that it wouldn't be taken anywhere scary ever again. It was a scene that perfectly encapsulated the entire situation: galactic bureaucracy versus one human's unwavering empathy. Within a local week, the footage, now slickly edited and titled "Tiny Terror Chooses Mom," outperformed every combat highlight reel on the extranet. It was everywhere. And then, because commerce always follows chaos, the merch appeared. Plush Krillian cubs with detachable human boots, tiny replicas of Mara's backpack. More importantly, xenodiplomacy shifted. Species that had previously avoided humans as dangerously unpredictable, or perhaps just too weird, now queued for joint missions. Their reasoning? Any race that can turn a war beast into a cuddlebug, that can make a planet destroyer purr, must know something about fear management and interspecies relations that the rest of us simply don't. It was a grudging respect, perhaps, but respect nonetheless. Humanity, it seemed, had inadvertently stumbled into a new role, the galaxy's premier animal whisperers. I made a return visit to Outpost 12 6 months later to finalize some reports. And what did I find? The cub, now tripled in mass, still naps beside Mara's bunk. They had to reinforce the cot with Durasteel struts, naturally. Its purr, I can confirm, now registers on seismographs across the sector. Krillian observers, who maintain a surprisingly close watch, report healthy development, hormone levels optimal, hunting reflex intact, and social bonding, redirected toward both species. Translation: it will defend its human pack with the same fervor, the same terrifying efficiency that it would defend its Krillian brood. Humans, meanwhile, just shrug, call it Wednesday, and teach it fetch with an old toroidal reactor coil. Because of course they do. It's just another day in the life of humanity, where the most dangerous creature in the galaxy is now a glorified, laser-eyed, purring pet. So, if stories like this make you feel that little spark of pride, that inexplicable warmth for being a 1.5 kilogram brain mammal who can apparently out-nurture the entire universe, then do me a favor. Tap that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me which so-called untouchable species you'd befriend next. I'm genuinely curious. And full disclosure, because transparency is key, the links in the description take you straight to the original HFY Reddit thread. Go give the author some well-earned karma. Seriously, they deserve it for coming up with this glorious chaos. The Council, in a move that probably surprised precisely no one, updated Protocol 734. It now includes a rather specific addendum, exception. Humans may approach, at own risk, if accompanied by snack, lullaby, and an irrepressible urge to protect anything smaller than themselves. Somewhere between the stars, a warbeast cub, now a formidable adolescent, dreams of boot leather and soft voices. And every alien who witnesses this utterly bewildering yet undeniably beautiful bond learns the same truth. The most dangerous thing in the galaxy isn't a predator with obsidian claws and reactive armor. Oh no. The most dangerous thing in the galaxy is